Our home insurance called us to say they couldn't process our claim because a co-owner had blocked it. We never filed joint ownership. When we asked for documentation, they sent over a scanned signature. It looked like mine, but the date didn't match anything I'd signed. We checked with the county. There was a deed adjustment, filed 6 months ago. The witness? Our neighbor. The notary? Her cousin. But what we found in the filing clerk's notes was a post-it with one phrase written in all caps. Do not process, suspicious pattern from this street. A hailstorm came through Tacoma last September. Big one. Ripped up our roof, broke both skylights, wrecked the garden. The kind of thing that makes you grateful for home insurance. My wife, Dana, called it in right away. She's more organized than me. She filed the claim the next morning, gave them the full rundown, pictures and everything. We figured the adjuster would be out in a week or so. Easy. But then nothing happened. 3 weeks later, we got a call from the insurance company. The guy on the phone sounded like he was half asleep. He said, "Hi, Mr. Schiller. I'm calling about your claim. Unfortunately, we can't process it at this time due to a block from one of the co-owners." I said, "What co-owner?" He said, "According to the records, your property has 2 owners now. The other party objected to the claim." I nearly dropped the phone. I told him that was impossible. We bought the house in 2015. It's me and my wife, and no one else. There's never been a third party. No trust, no inheritance, no joint buyers. Just us. He paused and said, "It looks like the change was filed 6 months ago. I can send you a copy of the documents." I told him to send everything. 10 minutes later, I opened the PDF in my email. It was a scanned copy of a deed adjustment. At the bottom was a signature that looked almost exactly like mine. It had my name. My handwriting. But something felt off. The tail of the L in Schiller was longer than I ever write it. And the date next to it was one I recognized right away, 6 months ago, on the day of my dad's funeral in Medford, Oregon. I never signed that. Dana sat beside me on the couch, reading it over my shoulder. She whispered, "This is a forgery." We went to the Pierce County Recorder's office the next morning. We brought the document and showed the clerk. She pulled up the file in the system and confirmed that yes, a deed adjustment had been filed. A new name had been added. Pamela Ruggles. Pam lived 3 houses down from us. Retired. Mid-60s. Gray bob haircut. Always smiling. Always walking that damn dog in a little pink jacket. The kind of neighbor who waves every time she passes but doesn't really talk to you. Why the hell was she on our deed? We asked the clerk how something like that could have even gone through. She looked over the notes in the filing and got real quiet. Then she said, "There's something weird here." She stepped away and came back with a manila file. Inside was the original filing. On the front was a bright yellow post-it with all caps handwriting. "Do not process, suspicious pattern from this street." That's when it hit us. Pam hadn't just forged the document. She had done this before. We went home and started digging. We pulled every public deed record from our block for the last 3 years. And we found them. 3 other homes, different owners, same pattern. Deed adjustments that added a third party for no reason. All of them notarized by the same notary, Lori Masters. Pam's cousin. One witness name kept coming up too, Roger Wilkes. Our neighbor across the street. Quiet guy, ex-military, usually keeps to himself. Always helps Pam with yard work. Now it made sense. This was a scam. A coordinated one. Pam was using fake deed filings to get her name on homes. Blocking insurance claims. Maybe even waiting for tax defaults or liens. Who knows what her long game was. But she picked the wrong house. I hired a lawyer. He confirmed what we feared, clearing Pam off the deed would take months, maybe longer. A judge would need to see evidence of fraud. In the meantime, we couldn't access insurance funds. The damage to our roof? $47,000. We didn't have it. Pam had us pinned in a corner. She walked past our house like nothing happened. Waved. Smiled. Let her dog pee on our lawn. But she didn't know something about me. I work in logistics. I know how to track patterns. I know how to build a case. I don't blow up, I work quiet. I started writing down everything. Dates. Names. Notary stamps. Property numbers. Every fake adjustment Pam had touched. I kept watching. She had no idea I was getting ready to burn her whole operation down. I didn't tell anyone what I was planning. Not even Dana. She was already stressed out, trying to figure out how we'd pay for a tarp company to stop the leaks. I told her I was handling it. And I was. First, I called the county again and asked for the signatures on every document Pam Ruggles had ever notarized or witnessed. Then I did something that felt dirty but necessary. I walked over to Roger's house. He answered in a tank top, holding a can of beer. "Hey there," he said like everything was fine. I smiled. "Mind if I ask you something?" He stepped out on the porch. "Why'd you sign as a witness on the deed adjustment for our house?" His eyes twitched for a second, just a flicker. He shrugged. "Pam asked me to. Said you guys were adding her to help with taxes or something. You believe that?" I asked. He looked away. "She said you were all friends. I didn't know anything was off. Did you even see me sign it?" I asked. He didn't answer. That was my answer. "Roger," I said, calm but hard, "you committed perjury. I'm not just some idiot neighbor. I've got evidence. The clerks flagged it. I've got a lawyer. The notary is Pam's cousin. And now you're tied to 3 other houses with this exact pattern." He took a step back. "What do you want?" I didn't answer. I just turned around and walked off his porch. I wanted him scared. That was the beginning. I made a burner Gmail and sent everything I had to a local real estate fraud investigator. Then I sent it to the local paper. Then I went further, every title company in Pierce County. Every realtor. I wrote a bullet-pointed timeline, attached the documents, highlighted the notary matches and witness names. 3 days later, my phone blew up. The fraud investigator called me personally. "This isn't just civil fraud," he said. "This is criminal. What she's doing qualifies as deed theft. And if we prove she profited from it, or tried to, it's a felony." I told him about the post-it. About the clerk who flagged her. He said that was gold. Dana still didn't know the half of it. That night, I finally sat her down and told her the whole thing. What I'd been doing. Who I'd talked to. What was coming. She stared at me stunned. Then she laughed, one of those sharp, breathless laughs that means you're too angry to cry. "She walks past our house like she owns it," Dana said. "I want her to pay." "She will," I said. But Pam didn't know yet that she was being investigated. So I kept it going. I ordered a copy of Pam's notary cousin's licensing info. She hadn't renewed properly. Her last renewal had lapsed 2 years ago, but she kept stamping. That was another crime. I sent that in, too. Then I got bold. I went to one of the other homeowners who had a fake co-owner added. Nice older couple a few blocks down. I knocked, introduced myself, and asked if they'd ever added anyone to their deed. The wife gasped when I showed her the filing. They had no idea. None. They called their son, who was a lawyer. Now they were in it too. Pam was in deep now, and I could feel it, things were about to break open. But Pam wasn't stupid. She must have heard something, maybe from Roger, maybe from the cousin, because that weekend, I saw her loading boxes into the back of her car. Dana spotted it first. "She's leaving," she said. "No," I said, grabbing my phone. "She's trying to run." I took a video of the plates. Called the investigator. Sent it all in. The next morning, the sheriff's office knocked on her door. And that's when the real fallout began. I watched from our window as 2 sheriff's deputies spoke to Pam on her porch. She had her arms crossed, her little dog barking behind the screen door. She wasn't smiling anymore. Dana stood beside me. "Think they're arresting her?" "Not yet," I said. "But they're letting her know she's not invisible. They didn't arrest her that day. But something had shifted. Pam didn't walk her dog past our house anymore. She stayed inside. Curtains closed. Lights off at night. She knew. Then, out of nowhere, I got a certified letter in the mail. It was from Pam's lawyer. Inside was a typed letter stating that Pam was willing to remove herself from the deed of the property located at our address, as long as we agreed not to pursue further legal or civil action. Dana nearly ripped the paper in half. "She's offering to back out if we let her off the hook?" "She's scared," I said. "That's a panic move." I scanned the letter and sent it to the fraud investigator. He told me not to respond. "Let this play out," he said. "She's trying to wriggle free before the real charges land." And then came the twist I didn't expect. The notary cousin, Lori Masters, got arrested. It happened quietly. Booked for fraud, unlawful notarization, and obstruction. I only found out because one of the other victims forwarded me the arrest report. Local police had connected her to 5 forged documents across our neighborhood. 3 were Pam's. And Lori flipped. She made a deal. Gave names. Gave records. Emails. Pam's instructions, Pam's handwriting, Pam's timeline. She didn't just implicate Pam, she dropped Roger too. Turns out Roger got paid. Pam gave him small gifts for witnessing. Cash, Amazon gift cards, free lawn care. That was enough to prove conspiracy. I forwarded it all to my lawyer. Now, this wasn't just some slow civil case. This was going to court. But then something even darker came out. One of the deed adjustments Pam filed on another house was for a property where the owner had died. A widow who'd passed from cancer the year before. No family. The house was in limbo. Pam had added herself as a caretaker co-owner. That was her plan. Wait for people to die. Target homes with no heirs or distracted owners. Slip in a signature. Forge the rest. Then either block claims, collect tax refunds, or take equity later. She had a pattern. She had a strategy. And it wasn't new. Her lawyer withdrew the next week. Suddenly Pam had no defense. She was alone. But we weren't done. Roger got a subpoena. He tried to fight it but failed. He showed up to the hearing shaking like a leaf, claiming he didn't know the filings were fake. That Pam told him it was all legal paperwork, and that he was doing a favor. The judge didn't buy it. Dana and I sat in that courtroom watching Pam avoid our eyes. Her mouth tight. Hair pulled back. No more peppermint gum. No more dog. Just silence. But something still felt unfinished. Because despite the charges and the exposure, Pam still had her house. Still had her name. Still lived down the street. I wanted justice. But part of me wanted revenge. Real revenge. And that's when I remembered something from our deed. A small clause. Something Pam hadn't noticed. And it was about to cost her everything. Back when Dana and I bought the house, the real estate agent had us sign a bunch of paperwork, some of which I barely read at the time. One of them was a restrictive covenant from the original neighborhood association, back when this street was first developed in the 80s. It wasn't enforced anymore, but the clause was still recorded on our deed. It said that any party found guilty of fraud or misrepresentation involving ownership or title would forfeit all claims to property rights and could face liens from the association. That part had never been tested because the association dissolved years ago. But the covenant was still legally binding. My lawyer confirmed it. And that gave us a weapon. I filed a formal complaint under the covenant, using Pam's criminal charges and the forged deed as the basis. It allowed me to request a lien against her home, Pam's house, for damages related to our case and others she'd tampered with on our street. That was the final blow. She had lied, schemed, and nearly got away with it. But now, her own home was at risk. The court agreed the lien was valid based on the original covenant. If she wanted to sell or refinance, she'd have to pay tens of thousands in restitution. Every cent would go toward the damages she caused. Not just to me and Dana, but to the other families too. Roger settled his part. Quietly. Paid fines. Moved away. Pam? She tried to stall, to file appeals. But it didn't work. A month later, the county seized her car. Then her accounts were frozen. Her lawyer was long gone. She had no more backup. No more cousins to notarize lies. No neighbors left to trick. And the last time I saw her was in the courtroom for the final hearing. She looked at me like she wanted to say something. Maybe to apologize, maybe to beg. But I just stared at her and said nothing. She was found guilty of multiple counts of deed fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit real estate theft. Her house went into foreclosure. And Dana and I? We finally got the insurance payout. We fixed the roof. And we put up a new fence. But we left one piece of the old picket fence standing, the part facing Pam's now empty lot. Burnt, cracked, and crooked. Like a scar. Because sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's just a slow, quiet grind that leaves the guilty exactly where they belong, alone. Broke. And erased.